Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for our Good Jobs, Good Business Toolkit training webinar. We're really excited to have you as either a part of our inaugural cohort of Good Jobs, Good Business advisors, or to have you joining us here for the toolkit training to learn more about the content of the toolkit as well as our efforts. I'm just going to pause and take a moment to let participants continue joining for a minute or two before I dive into the content of today's webinar, as well as provide an introductory overview. So we're just going to pause here for another 30 seconds or so as I see participants continuing to join. Great. Well, once again, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today for our Good Jobs, Good Business Toolkit training webinar. Just before we dive into our introductions, agendas, and the content of today's webinar, we'd like to take a moment here at PCV to acknowledge global affairs. The COVID-19 pandemic is a public health emergency as well as an economic crisis, hitting our vulnerable populations the hardest. At PCV, through the work that we do, we're keenly aware of the fact that businesses are closing for weeks at a time, and those who aren't are seeing major hits to their bottom line. It's hitting businesses and it's hurting the workers who most rely on their paychecks. At PCV, we know that 40% of Americans work service industry related jobs, have no paid sick leave, and fewer than 25% of them can afford to take it. This is coming from data compiled by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. These are also jobs in industries like retail, housekeeping, food, and entertainment that are most likely to put those workers in broad contact with others. So protecting employee health is not only important for these businesses long-term, but for community health right now. We recognize that small business owners are now, more than ever, trying to balance competing demands, managing their cash flow and finances, shifting operations to comply with regulations like takeout only, and taking care of employee health and well-being amidst a global crisis. It's never been more important to partner with them as a trusted mentor to support them through this crisis and to be there as a business advisor. With that in mind, we want to share that we recognize milestones related to the Good Jobs, Good Business program specifically may shift as you and your small business owner, if you're paired with one specifically, navigate what's directly in front of you. And we hope to support you through that process. While today's webinar and training will focus on the resources available directly through the Good Jobs, Good Business Toolkit, PCV has also compiled resources available to small business owners for COVID-19 resilience, available on our website. Thank you again for being here today in support of the small business community. We are so very grateful to have you. So once again, we'd like to thank you for being here, and we're going to pause for some introductions just to share who we are on the phone, who will be walking you through today's training. I'll take a moment to introduce myself. My name is Christy Henrik, and I'm a project manager on PCV's research and consulting team, the team behind the creation of the Good Jobs, Good Business Toolkit, as well as its implementation with small business owners across the country. I'm here to answer any questions you may have on content, the process for implementing the toolkit, its functionality as it relates to the website, and more. Daniel?
Thank you, Christy. Hello, everybody. My name is Daniel Wada, and I'm a Clients Relations Manager on PCV's Business Advising team. Our role at Business Advising is to match business owners with pro bono advisors that have the skills and experience to help them create solutions for their business challenges. And keep in mind that as you go through this journey of being a good jobs advisor, I'll be available to provide ongoing support for both advisors and small business owners to ensure progress is being made and make sure that partnerships are on track to be successful.
Great. Thank you, Daniel. We're also going to take a pause for a quick moment of housekeeping. So throughout the webinar, we'll have a couple of Q&A breaks because we're going to be sharing a lot of detailed content with you on the Good Jobs, Good Business Toolkit, and we'd like to be able to respond in as real time as possible to your questions. What we'd encourage you to do is the moment you have a question, please try to type it into the Q&A box so that we're able to respond to it in the Q&A session that's most relevant to your question. At the end of the webinar, we'll have a final questions section where we can respond to any remaining questions or overall questions or have any discussion. Thank you. Great. So now for today's agenda. We're going to walk through 5 main topics with you today. First, we're going to cover a quick overview of the Good Jobs, Good Business Toolkit, including its history and its structure. For most webinar attendees, we do believe this will be a review, and if it's not, we would encourage you to attend the overview webinar on the Good Jobs, Good Business program or watch a recording of it to gain some more history and context for the toolkit. Next, we'll show you a demo of the website, focusing on how you can navigate the resource. Then we'll dive into a specific section of the Good Jobs, Good Business Toolkit, where we'll be discussing an area of content in more detail and how you might navigate the resource with a business owner. Following this, we'll review a success story from a small business in PCV's loan fund who used the Good Jobs, Good Business Toolkit to improve employee engagement. And finally, we'll review the supplemental resources in detail available for your partnership so that you're equipped to work with small business owners as questions may arise. To begin, as many of you know, PCV created the Good Jobs, Good Business Toolkit to provide small business owners with a practical how-to resource to take the guesswork of how to improve the quality of jobs offered at their business for their employees. We built the resource based on interviews with small business owners and their employees, as well as desk research, using their feedback to compile a toolkit that provides step-by-step guides for improving job quality in different focus areas, such as implementing retirement benefits or improving training opportunities. The document is built with the underlying messaging and structure to show small business owners that providing good jobs is not only good for their employees, but also for their bottom line. Finally, as you all know from being here, business advisors are a critical support system in this process, providing guidance, your own experience and expertise as small business owners implement the toolkit. So as we like to emphasize, we don't necessarily expect you to work with just the resources available in the toolkit, but also to bring your own experience to bear, to bring resources that you have from your work, and to customize and create anything that you may need, and hopefully share them back with us so that we can include them in the toolkit. As we mentioned on the previous slide, the toolkit is structured around 6 key areas, from benefits like health and retirement to subjects like employee engagement. And as you'll see during the demo and deep dive, each section contains how-to or step-by-step guides, case studies, and tools and benchmarks from several different sources to provide business owners with a comprehensive set of resources. So what you'll see as we go through the demo is that we do link to external resources so that you're able to pull from a variety of resources. At this time, we'll move into the website demo. So at the bottom of the page, you can see the website URL. And here I've landed on the Good Jobs, Good Business website homepage. So Good Jobs, Good Business is a practical toolkit to help your small business create jobs that boost the bottom line. And when I land on the website homepage here, as you can see, I'm shown the 6 main areas of the toolkit that we have, from things like retirement and health benefits to scheduling and paid leave, to topics like hiring, training, and professional development, to employee engagement. I'm going to take a moment to show you the main structure of each of these 6 areas before I dive into the other features of the website. If I'm hovering over one of the sections here, like health benefits, you can see that first it provides a quick overview of what this section entails. So providing healthcare benefits can provide competitive advantages like attracting talented workers, improving productivity, and increasing retention. And then each of the sections of the website has the same main set of subsections. So it includes an overview page. It includes a section on the business case. So for example, the type of return on investment that the business might see by implementing health benefits. Then it includes a how to get started page. And this is really the bulk of the content. It's the how to implement page. So it can take the business owner step by step through how they would go about implementing health benefits. Then an other options section. This is really meant to cover what if the business owner and I talked about health benefits and realized perhaps it was too expensive for us. What might we do next that could perhaps mimic implementing health benefits or provide some of the same benefits for our employees to improve employee health and well-being? What might we be able to do? And then additional help to send the business owner to some nationally based resources that are available to them. So I'm going to go ahead now and click on the overview page here so that you can get a sense of the structure that's available. So the overview page provides some background information on the section. A few key features to point out here. Every page includes an option to download print email, as well as share the pages via social channels. This is available because we know that different business owners and their employees perhaps like to consume content in different mediums, as well as you all. So you're able to sort of send this information however you'd best like to view it. Additionally, the overview section points you to the same main 4 sections below here, and you can go and click on them directly here. Then you're brought into the same main sub-navigation for each page. So now if I'm here on the business case page, which is sharing the return on investment that the business owner could potentially see by implementing health benefits, again, I have these same main alternative consumption function buttons, and I have a side menu navigation. This is all related to the health benefits section. So I could go back to the overview page, or I could move on to the how to get started just by clicking on this button here. So if I scroll on to the how to get started, I could then move through the content. Additionally, the subpages will contain examples of success stories. So if I wanted to see a sample success story of a business that has implemented health benefits, for example, I could go ahead and click on that success story. Now, one of the things to know about the success stories is that there is in fact an entire success story repository. So you could search by topic areas as well as by industries and learn the success stories. And something we're excited to build out is the repository containing more examples of businesses that have worked with business advisors like you all as part of these cohorts. So we'd like you to tell us your story. One thing to note is that not all businesses who are featured in the success story repository have necessarily used the Good Jobs, Good Business Toolkit, but it doesn't mean you can't necessarily learn from their examples here. If you click on all success stories, the success stories at the top are typically ones that have worked with the Good Jobs, Good Business Toolkit or have been part of PCV's loan fund and have worked with business advisors like yourselves. And if you ever have any questions, you can always reach out to us. I'm going to go back to the main navigation page to continue on with the demo. To navigate back to the main navigation page, I just clicked on this Good Jobs, Good Business heading at the top here and made my way back, but you could also use the back button in your browser to click back until you reached it. If I work my way from the top down, we have a few other features that I'd like to point out here. First, there's a search bar on the website. So if you know exactly what you want to work on with your business owner and you don't necessarily know which subsection it falls under, you could go ahead and search for a different term. Like I could search for hiring. And the website would return all content that relates to hiring. And you could just pull up the specific sections and just take a look at the first couple of sentences, for example, that might be relevant and try to get a sense for which article. For example, I might say, here's a case study. Oh, it relates to PCV's Good Jobs, Good Business. Maybe this is relevant to me, and go ahead and click on it. We also have the case for good jobs. While we mentioned that every subsection of the toolkit contains underlying content in the business case section that helps the business owner and you think about how a specific section might demonstrate a return on investment for working through that specific section of the toolkit. The case for good jobs is one specific section of the toolkit that walks through how, as it says here, a quality jobs focus can really be transformative for the business. It's meant to walk through an overarching framework for a good jobs, good business approach, and contains underlying content that actually pulls from, in this last bullet here, the Good Jobs Institute out of MIT that contains a lot of research on particularly medium to large-sized businesses that PCV's work has scaled down to scaled down the approach to small businesses and is working to embed throughout the toolkit and our approach. We found through our work with small business owners that having the content front and center in terms of an overarching case wasn't necessarily what they needed to read, but having it embedded through the specific sections was the most helpful. We do recommend that all advisors read this section, as it can be really helpful to understand the underlying framework. However, the specific subsections are really helpful for thinking about the individual potential benefits of each of the sections that you may work on. We also have a few other sublinks, such as how you might go about if a business owner came to the site organically, working with a business advisor, a specific section for business advisors, and then for partners of PCV. Finally, if you're ever having trouble finding the success story repository, you can access it via this direct link at the bottom here. And that took us to this page. I'm going to pause here and see if there are any questions at this point that we can answer. Pause for about 15 more seconds to see if anyone would like to put a question into the Q&A box at this time. Okay. We will have another question break in about 2 sections, so please don't be shy and please feel free to put any questions into the Q&A box at any point. Great. So at this point, we're going to walk through a deep dive of a specific Good Jobs, Good Business Toolkit section. For today's section deep dive, we'd like to walk through the employee compensation section of the toolkit. So once again, I'm going to go back and navigate to the Good Jobs, Good Business website. I'm going to go here and go to the home page. And I'm going to go to employee compensation here and just navigate my website. Okay. So we're going to start here on the overview page. On the overview page, so all overview pages cover, as we mentioned, an overview of this specific section. For the employee compensation page, the content covers not only the importance of competitive compensation, but really the challenges that small business owners face, not only in paying that competitive compensation, but determining what a competitive compensation is. As a reminder, and it's a little bit hard to see, especially on a webinar, when I hover over any of the text that's dark blue as opposed to black, that's a link to an external resource. So for example, I could hover over the link connecting me to cost of turnover studies or the cost to replace, for example, a $10 per hour retail employee. And you could then go ahead and pull that into a discussion with your mentee if perhaps turnover is a challenge that they're facing in their business. I'm going to go ahead and click next on the business case section here so we can walk through that. So this section traditionally asks the same question across all areas of the Good Jobs, Good Business Toolkit, which is how can doing X potentially benefit my business? In this case, how can increasing employee compensation benefit my business? The section will then outline a series of potential areas of benefit that could be seen by investing in this case, employee compensation, according to the research. So if I just scroll down here so you can see them all. For example, if your mentee is struggling with areas like employee retention and morale and attracting the best workers for their business, perhaps reviewing employee compensation could be an option for your engagement, given the potential benefits enumerated. One thing that we do want to pause and mention here, as well as emphasize overall, is that one reason why we recruit expert advisors like you all to support these business owners is that improving different aspects of job quality can often lead to potential similar benefits. So for example, raising employee compensation and implementing employee engagement techniques, you may both see improvements in employee morale. So you're really going to have to work with a business owner to understand what solution set is best for them and perhaps also at what point in time, and given their resources available. So we understand it's a complex equation. The toolkit is meant to be a resource for you to work with and is meant to put out a set of options. But every business is unique and every situation is unique. And so that's why we know it takes a team effort. Great. So I'm going to move on now to how to get started for employee compensation. And just go ahead and scroll down a little bit here. So how to get started, as I've mentioned, these pages are effectively how to implement. So it contains the bulk of the content. And as we've mentioned, it takes you through everything step by step from A to Z under that particular section. If you and the business owner know exactly where you want to start or exactly what you want to do, you could search for the resource either using that search bar navigation way back on the home page, or you could just use like a Control F and you could say like, okay, I know what I want to use the living wage here. And I know what I want to do here. However, if you don't know where you want to start, and you don't know exactly what you want to do, or you know you want to work on compensation but not exactly how, then perhaps reading from top to bottom or skimming from top to bottom, especially these big headings here, could be really helpful and a good way to approach the toolkit. So with all of that in mind, I'm going to share a little bit about what is specifically under employee compensation, for example. So we have two main sections here. The first one is, how do I determine what's a fair wage to pay my employees? And then I'm just going to scroll down, and so you can see it at the bottom. It's what steps can I take to increase employee wages? So the fair wage, apologies for the back and forth, I'm going to scroll back up. The fair wage includes topics like the minimum wage, so staying ahead of minimum wage changes, comparison tools, and then understanding the living wage. And the living wage is a calculation that covers the basic needs of an employee, so things like food, housing, healthcare, education, transportation, as well as some discretionary income. And all of this is benchmarked to a location. And this big blue box walks you through what that is, as well as the living wage calculator that MIT has published that you could use. And then steps to increase employee wages is really where a lot of the meat of the section lives, because it helps you and the SBO think through, you and the small business owner, think through how you might be able to feasibly raise wages at their business. So it's topics like, start where you can, or remembering that it takes time. So thinking about, the fact that we recognize this is a journey, to thinking through how things like scheduling can impact take-home pay, or, how might you be able to avoid wage compression. It also, if you scroll down, will propose some tactics that are related to the business more holistically. So are there ways that you could increase sales targets, or could you increase prices, or are there ways to decrease costs in other areas? All of these are truly meant to be ideas, and everything in the toolkit is meant to be that. It's never meant to be the one expert way of doing something. And we know that they may not be right for every business. And again, that's why we encourage you and the business owner to figure out what's best for that business. So the next section that I've clicked on here is the other options section. So this section doesn't exist in every area of the toolkit. There are certain areas of the toolkit like employee compensation, retirement benefits and other wealth building options, health benefits, for example, that we know often require a more significant financial investment on behalf of the small business owner in their business to implement, along with, of course, a time investment. Some other areas of the toolkit, like hiring, training, and professional development, or employee engagement, while they will require a financial investment, typically the more upfront investment is time or operational improvements or components like that. And so we recognize that there's a range of areas of the toolkit and the types of investments required. And so typically in areas that require more significant financial investments, there's an other options section of the toolkit. And it's meant to propose alternatives that, as it shares here, that If you realize that, for example, raising wages isn't financially feasible, this is the feedback that you're getting from your employees, or this is what the business owner really wants to do, what are some other things that you might be able to do for the business that might help mimic some of the benefits or might help provide some outcomes that perhaps could be similar. So these are some other options that are available. And then oftentimes it will provide some other ideas that are perhaps lower cost or might link to, for example, the employee engagement section of the toolkit. As we mentioned earlier on, a lot of things can be interlinked. And so perhaps if you worked on some other areas, maybe you could, by reducing turnover through employee engagement, eventually have the ability to then make an investment in raising employee compensation. The final page of the sections are the additional help page. Most of these pages are structured to be nationally available resources, which includes PCV's Business Advising Network. Your business owners will already be paired with you, the SBA, and then sometimes a few other available resources. Most likely you and your business owners will not be using these pages much. Great. I'm going to pause here quickly before I move on to the success story, just to share a reminder to please be typing any questions that you might have into the Q&A box. After the success story, we will pause to see if there are any questions that we can answer at that time. Great. So we're going to go ahead and discuss an example of a small business owner who used the Good Jobs, Good Business Toolkit with the support of her advisor to improve outcomes at her small business through PCV's Good Jobs, Good Business pilot that we conducted last year. We'll take a few minutes here to tell you about Jen Musty, who's actually pictured in this white apron here, and we'll actually move to her success story on the Good Jobs, Good Business website momentarily. She owns Batter Bakery, which is a bakery and retail shop in San Francisco with 2.5 locations. And she worked to improve employee engagement by increasing sales targets through the concept of a mini game, and paired these with short trainings for staff, primarily via one-page guides. I'm going to start here on the employee engagement section of the toolkit, just to give you a little bit more of a background on this section in which she and her advisor were working. So as we've alluded to today, employee engagement can really cover several topic areas and be used to help business owners navigate areas to improve workforce engagement. If I go ahead to the How to Get Started section, you can see that it can include thinking through areas from benefits to making thoughtful hires, your training and internal promotions, the concept of operating with Slack, to introducing employee ownership options. But really, the core behind employee engagement can be as simple as creating cultures of mutual trust and respect, and so on. And the toolkit goes on to list some 5 key ways that a business owner can think about engaging their employees and how they can go about doing that. I'll go ahead and click on Jen's success story while discussing it. So Jen found herself experiencing sluggish retail sales as her front of the house retail staff was often running to the back of the house to help the always busy kitchen staff. Working with her advisor, Anne-Claire Broughton, Jen implemented a mini game for her staff, setting retail sales goals. So the concept of a mini game was, with a small whiteboard setup, retail sales staff were set to meet certain monthly sales targets. If they met them, they could receive a small but meaningful reward. For example, in September, a new baking tool like a whisk, or in October, a team pumpkin carving party. So these were things that, for example, were really meaningful gestures and gifts to, folks who worked at a bakery, like, a new kitchen supply tool, and also things that helped build employee camaraderie and culture. To support staff in reaching the retail sales goals, Jen prepared upselling guides and taught staff how she turns an order of 2 cookies into 2 dozen plus a pie. By the end of the mini game period, Batter Bakery saw its 2nd highest retail sales month to date. The process was so successful that staff asked to implement another mini game. This time, Jen and Anne-Claire have set the game up on minimizing baking production errors and paired it with an innovative Instagram training tool to help the staff reduce waste and, in conjunction, think green. The tool helps provide a more functional training tool for a business like a bakery, where it's not possible to host all-day training sessions for a spread out, multi-shift baking staff. And I'll actually here navigate back to the slides where you can see an example of batter tutorials here and their tool. Sorry. I'm going to go ahead and pause here and see if there are any questions. Great. So question coming in, what are the next steps in this project? This seems like an extremely impactful time to roll this out. Thanks for the question, John. So in terms of next steps, we are working to pair all advisors who are not yet paired with a small business owner. But one of the things that we shared at the beginning of today's webinar was that, we are keenly aware of the COVID-19 crisis really causing an impact for our small business community right now. So we have at PCV, while we have the Good Jobs, Good Business resource toolkit available, we also have on our website a link to resources, a broader set of COVID-19 resilience resources that can support small business owners through this crisis. So we'll go ahead, and if you're ready to, sign up and be an advisor, we'll go ahead and pair you with a small business owner. So with these COVID-19 resilience resources, plus the Good Jobs, Good Business toolkit, we're excited for you to work with a small business owner to support them, not only through this time, but also, in the longer term to help them with employee health and well-being, and in the long term for, stable business growth and hopefully improving the jobs for their employees. Is it possible to work with another person, company for this project and also an existing project? If the question is asking, can you be paired with more than one business advising mentee at a time? The answer is, it is completely up to you and your capacity. At PCV, we do not have any problem with that, but it is all up to you. And if you feel like you have the capacity to support 2 small business owners at a time, as we leave that to you. Let me know if I did not answer the question. Okay. Are there any other questions we can answer at this time?
All right, thank you, Christy.
Great.
Looks like you answered all the questions, so thank you for that. And I'll go ahead and take it from here. So next, I'll review the supplemental resources that will support your use of the Good Jobs, Good Business Toolkit. And I just want to make a note that there are no right or wrong ways to use this toolkit. We want you to utilize this toolkit in a way that works best for both you and your business owner. In drawing from our previous experience from the Good Jobs, Good Business pilot that we ran last year, we've seen advisors successfully use the toolkit by either applying it as their primary resource or working with the toolkit as a jumping off point to structure their engagement, but then also bring in their own resources and materials to their partnership. And here you could see a list of the resources that you'll receive. And from the top, we'll be providing you with a goal setting worksheet designed to be used during your first couple of meetings with your business owner to help the 2 of you choose your focus area, set goals, create accountability, and develop your plan of action. We'll send you a blank goal setting worksheet in addition to a goal setting worksheet with pre-populated answers that you can use as an example and refer to as you set goals with your business owner. Great. And we'll also send you a partnership guide. And this is to help you and your business owner understand the commitments, timelines, roles, and responsibilities for this engagement. We created this online intranet, and it's exclusively for our Good Jobs advisors. Here, you'll find a consolidated collection of resources and documents that we'll be sharing with you. So you'll find documents such as the goal setting worksheets and partnership guide, as we just listed. Also, you'll find readings, videos, even the recording of this webinar, and more. Next, you'll be invited to our Good Jobs Slack channel. And this is a forum for Good Jobs advisors to connect with one another and build a community. We encourage advisors to ask questions, share learnings, and celebrate successes. And just to note, Slack is free to use. So if you've never used Slack before, just go to slack.com to sign up. And from there, you'll be able to join our group. And lastly, our code of conduct. And this is a one-pager that provides clear standards and expectations for your partnership from both the business owner and the advisor's perspective. And on top of these resources that we'll be providing you, we also want to encourage you to pull your own outside materials and resources to your engagement. We're always interested in learning from our advisors. So if you have any relevant resources that you'd like to share with us, we fully welcome them. Just want to say thank you all so much for joining us today. We truly appreciate it and are grateful for your willingness to help these small business owners, especially in a time that is needed now more than ever. And we wanted to take these last couple of minutes of this webinar to answer any questions that you may have about this initiative.
We'll go ahead and pause for about 1 more minute to give folks who haven't had a chance to type any questions into the Q&A box to type them in now. But while we're waiting, we just want to thank everyone again for joining. I'd like to also thank Daniel for co-presenting with me today.
Thank you, Christy, as well.
You can always reach out to us with any follow-up questions at the email addresses here. If you also are on the Good Job PCV website, you can always submit a question to our contact us email address there, and we can always follow up with you there as well. If there are no questions, then we can go ahead and give everyone about 13 minutes back in what I would imagine are some pretty busy weeks. Thank you everyone so much for joining us today. Just as a reminder, we'd like to re-emphasize what we shared at the beginning of today's webinar, which is that while we are excited to support small business owners in improving, of course, the quality of jobs offered and employee health and well-being, we know that now circumstances are different than when we began this project several months ago. So when you're working with small business owners, like we mentioned at the beginning today, we'd encourage you to reach out to us at PCV if you have any questions. But importantly, please leverage the COVID-19 Small Business Resilience resource document that we have on our website. And really, think through and, have some patience and offer the small business owner time and your understanding as they work through, the crisis and changing circumstances and uncertainty in front of them today. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for volunteering. Bye, everyone.
Bye.